released numbers. Net profit for Kotak has come in at just about 3,000 odd crores. It is below our estimates of around 3,161 odd crores. And it compares to 2,791 or 92 crores same time last year. So there is a growth which has come through, but it is below our estimate. So it's around a 10% odd growth which they've reported. NII should come up for you as well. And remember that we're looking only at the standalone numbers for Kotak to get the pure banking business in terms of the reporting. NII has come in higher than estimates. So 6,554 crores is where the NII has come in. So I think that equals to around a 15% growth, which they've reported. Not bad, and we were anticipating around a 14%, 13.7% growth. So the NII is a tad better than expectations. The profit is a little below what at least we were anticipating.
Ekta, the reason why perhaps the profit could have been below our anticipation is largely because of the provisions. So provisions have increased by close to around, from 1.5 billion rupees to around 5.79 billion rupees. That's around 580 crores. So 149 crores has turned into 580 crores or 579 crores, and that delta is what is reflected in the decline in the net profit as against street expectations by about 150 odd crores as well. No problems when it comes to the asset quality. Gross NPA 1.73, this compares with 1.72 the quarter ago. Net NPA has actually seen an improvement from 0.37, it's come to around 0.34. So that explains the improvement in net NPA largely because of the increase in provisioning. The NII has been in line with expectations. We're just looking at all the other details which are flashing by as well. But for now, it looks like the profitability has been slightly below expectations, largely because of higher provisions.
Yes, and I think that the street likes the NII. That's the reason why the stock has actually moved up to around 0.8% in terms of a gain at this point. So I think the street is quite happy with the NII performance. But
and there is some clarification on the provisions as well, where the company is saying that they provided roughly 190 crore rupees in the quarter for investments in AIFs. So maybe they are, providing for their investments in AIFs, as a result of which the provision number has increased. And that has meant that the net profit is below expectations, but no problems with the NII. Asset quality looking good. Important to find out what the loan growth is, because the street expects around 16 to 17% advances growth coming in for Kotak Mahindra Bank. So the street is now ignoring the miss on the net profit, looking at the NII and the improvement in asset quality, and as a result of which the intraday chart of the stock comes up for you. A big move is what we've seen from the lows, currently sitting with a gain of about 1.5%, but from the lows, it's seen a decent recovery, moving towards the higher end of today's trading range.
Okay, well, in terms of the gross NPA also, it's just a marginal move higher of around 3.5%. But if you compare it on a year-on-year basis, they're standing at an gross NPA on an absolute basis at around 6,301 crores as compared to around 5,994 crores. I'm talking about year-on-year. If you look at it on a Q-on-Q basis, it's much more subdued. So 6,300 odd crores compares to around 6,087 odd crores. If you talk about the net NPAs, that actually has been lower on a sequential basis. So it's around 1,225 odd crores as compared to around 1,274 crores in the previous quarters. So that is actually a reduction which has come through of around 4 odd percent. So there are a couple of positives which have come through, which we just want to highlight, is that they have clarified with regards to the provisions why exactly they are higher this time round, because there is a significant jump. The NII is better than expectations. The gross NPAs as well as the net NPAs have been largely stable this time round as well. Ashutosh Mishra, who's the head of research institutional equities at Ashika Stockbroking, joins in with his quick take. Well, Ashutosh, thanks very much for joining in. What is your first take on Kotak, and what do you want to hear from the management?
The most important, the result looks quite good. The way I have not seen the number in very detail just now, but it looks on a first basis that we have a lot of positives also. But what we require to more look from the new management, and what is their strategy, especially strategy on the deposit front, and know how they are going to tackle the deposits growth so that they are able to participate in the loan growth going forward from here.
All right, and of the numbers that we have right now, provisions have increased. That's largely because of their exposure to AIFs, and that's dented the profitability by a little. Would you worry on that, or you think this is par for course and there are other more important parameters to look for in Kotak Mahindra Bank than just that?
So this AIF provision is across the private sector banks we are going to see this, because RBI has found out that this was a loophole which few banks may be misusing it. Kotak may not be misusing it all out there, but yes, RBI has come out with the regulation that banks need to provide on it, so that every bank who has this type of exposure needs to do it. What we're trying to know is that what type of structure bank has used in this part, and is there any risk post the RBI regulation coming into this area. So we just need to understand a little bit more on that front. But I don't find it to be a major concern area at this point of time.
All right.
Okay.
Just looking at some of the back of the envelope calculations here, turns out that maybe advances growth year on year could be close to around 15.5%. But we'll let Abhishek do those calculations. Abhishek, I believe, has done his early set of calculations and has joined us. Abhishek, of the numbers that are reported so far and what you've seen so far, what does it look like for Kotak Mahindra Bank?
Mixed set of numbers. To begin with, loan growth looks to be pretty strong, about 4.5% as per my calculation on a sequential basis, that is quarter on quarter. However, operationally, it's a weak quarter for Kotak Mahindra Bank because operating profits have declined by 1% on a sequential basis. All other banks have seen operating profit growth on a sequential basis, but Kotak Mahindra Bank is perhaps one of the few lenders who are seeing operating profit decline on a sequential basis. So 4.5% growth of loan have actually aided the net interest income this time around, and it's higher than our poll. In terms of provisions, as you guys have been discussing, provisions are up 58% quarter on quarter. We need to see whether this is only on account of AIF. I don't think so. It's only on account of AIF because of two key reasons. One, gross NPA in absolute value have increased by 3.5%, while net NPA has declined by 3.9%. So we need to look at the credit cost that has come in this quarter, and it may be on the higher side than what analysts were pegging in. And that is why, on account of elevated provisions due to AIF and slippages, which might have increased on a sequential basis, you are seeing profit below our poll. Back to you.
Okay, well, that's a very good point to take forward, because that's the next question I wanted to actually take forward is the slippages. We have Rahul Malani, who's the equity research analyst at Sharekhan, joining in with his quick take. Rahul, slippages were around 1,314 crores in the previous quarter. They have ranged within that space. What was your estimate for Kotak's slippages this time? We're waiting by for the absolute figure. But what, according to you, would be an inline number? What, according to you, would be a disappointment?
So anything slippages about 1,300 crore will be a disappointment, because we were working with an estimate of around 1,250 to 1,300 crores of slippages this quarter.
Okay. The other key point, which I think the street would want to watch out for, is also the stability in the net interest margin, something which, deterred sentiment with others. What is your sense, Rahul, in terms of what exactly the consolidated or standalone net interest margins would be for Kotak? What are you anticipating? Again, what is your parameter in terms of in line to maybe a disappointment?
See, if you look at the net interest income, it has grown by sequentially 4%. So my understanding is that the NIMs are flat quarter on quarter, and due to the one of the reason, because last quarter there had been one of around 15 to 20 basis points in the NIMs. And despite that, cost of funds have increased for this quarter, but NIMs have remained stable because of the one-off effect in the last quarter. So adjusted for that, NIMs have declined by 15 to 20 basis points this quarter. But it is looking at a flat because of the last quarter base effect.
Okay. Ashutosh, you have had some time to pore over the numbers, listen to all the analysis that has been going on so far as well. Have you, is there any more perspective that you can add to what we have so far?
So, if you look, on a NIM front, I clearly see that across the bank, we are going to see some margin compression. Because cost of fund is now increasing much higher than the yield on fund. Yield on fund was, we had seen increase earlier, and now the cost of fund is catching up. So this trend will continue. Even if suppose the bank is not doing any margin dip in this quarter, probably we would like to know from management that what will be the trend going forward from here on that front.
Okay, Ashutosh, one of the things that Abhishek in fact brought up in his link is that we need to see more granular details in terms of the provisions. So while there could be a component of AIF, do you think that would be the majority reason for the uptick that we've seen in provisions? And what would you like to hear about it from the management?
Yeah, I think so, because almost all major private banks has somewhat of other exposure towards this AIF, and whatever increase in provision we may be seeing at this point of time can come from the AIF portion of it, because other than that, we are not seeing any major negative impact on the asset quality. So yes, what we'd like to know more on that front is that from what type of exposure the bank has on that account, and going forward, what is their strategy to address the regulatory concerns which arise post the RBI notification on this matter.
All right, finally, gentlemen, before we let you go, your call on the stock quickly. Ashutosh, you go first.
So post the management change, more positive. I think this was the biggest hangover on the bank, and now this hangover is getting addressed. So we'd like to look about the growth strategy and how we want to take it forward from here. And given the type of growth prospect Indian banking has and the way Kotak is positioned itself, I see the good prospects of the bank in the near future. If I rating, yes, revisit after the management call.
Okay, Rahul, your call?
So we have a positive view on the stock, and we have a target price of around currently at 250 rupees.
Oh, okay. All right, Rahul, as well as Ashutosh, we're going to let you go on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us. So Kotak Mahindra Bank holding up with a gain of around 0.9%, almost a percent post its numbers. But remember that there will be more details during markets for Kotak Mahindra Bank, because they will be coming out with their presentation soon enough. So that will have more details. But the real meat in terms of the slippages, as well as the granular details in terms of asset quality provisions going forward, will be from the press conference this afternoon at 3:15 p.m. So stay tuned for that.